Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the What's Your Story podcast, Gen AI version. Hi, this is Ron Coughlin, your host, coming at you in a new studio today. You can see the background and new network as well, joining up with the TPL Media Network. And we're at a time and phase where we're interviewing some amazing guests, and no different this time. So I have a different type of guest today. He's actually an active member of the U.S. Army Cyber Command. That's incredible. His name is Zachary Jones, or Zach Jones. Should I call you Zach or Zachary?
Zach's fine, Ron. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, why don't you can do a much better job than me telling your story. So why don't you just give us a brief understanding of who you are, and then we'll get into some great questions around how you've started this company. Waffle. Is it Waffle? I want to make sure you say
Waffle.
that
Yeah, that's right.
Waffle, yeah. And how you are developing it and what you're using it for and what companies are using it for. So tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. My name is Zach Jones. I've been in the Army for most of my adult life, actually. So I accepted a commission out of college in 2016. Been all around military service, from aviation to the special operations community, and now in the cyber world. It's funny, really, cyber and AI and all these things weren't on my radar as something I wanted to really lean into until about 3 years ago, when my second child, my daughter, was born. I went downstairs. I was on parental leave. Yeah, told my wife, "Hey, Bethany, I want to start a company, I think." And I'd been in military service, like I said, my whole life, really. I said, "What kind of business?" I said, "Well, I think AI. So I'm going to learn how to do AI, whatever that means." I didn't know at the time, and get into it. Since then, went from a side hustle to a high six-figure agency called Waffle, and we are fractional ops for small and mid-market companies, as well as nonprofits who are looking to get ahead with AI, whether that's through templated solutions or through a white glove fractional COO service that we also offer.
Very cool. So, being part of the U.S. Army Cyber Command, how has this really, I guess, affected the way you think about AI and how you've created your business and working with other organizations?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, one of the big things at this stage of my career is we kind of get isolated in what we can and can't do as far as accepting jobs, right, in my company, because I can't take a government contract, for example, while I work for the military. That's been the biggest, I'd say, blocker. Now I am on my way out of military service to run my company full time, and that's exciting. But as far as insights, one thing I've really learned working in Cyber Command is how important human work still is. I think that sometimes in today's AI era, that kind of goes underappreciated, or there's almost like a flex in using as little headcount as possible, moving away from a human-focused economy. But what I've learned in military service and in Cyber Command is that you want those experts, you want those people, and you find that if you can reduce headcount by 50%, integrate a good AI solution, and get the same outcomes, then what kind of outcomes can you get when you keep your headcount and optimize their daily workflows with AI? And that's what we're seeing in the Army, which is not really cutting roles, but elevating those roles and strengthening them. And that's the approach that I take when I work with businesses. So if you believe you have not saturated your market, then you can only benefit by empowering your team with a good and real and durable AI solution, and just going and building a non-contextual agent from Claude, or I'm just talking with ChatGPT is not that, right? We're talking about real, like, data-driven, trained solutions with our company. Those are the big lessons I've learned on my end.
Now, you said something very interesting. People are worried that new AI systems and Gen AI and other processes or automated processes will take away jobs. But that's a good perspective, I think, looking at it, how more productive can you be and how can you grow your business if you're everybody using it in a certain way. So I think that's fascinating, really,
I agree with you.
So AI automation is really the way what you guys are doing within organizations. And so, how do you see this actually help the companies be more efficient? Like, does your platform use a number of different systems to make it much easier for people to get work done and collaborate and to innovate? Or maybe you could explain that about your the platform you're using and the automation.
For sure, yes. So we have a system that is like our main templated system called Waffle OS, and the whole idea is that you can, as a team, collaborate and build effective automations and workflows across functions and teams. And that is a fairly templated solution, but your workflows can be edited based on what tools you're using, right? However, our more, I guess, custom offer, as our white glove solution, is where we see the most hands-on metrics because we work with those clients directly.
I
Whereas you
see.
can go and just subscribe to our OS, for our fractional ops solutions, we'll take our OS as a starting point and then build
Hmm.
custom ERPs, custom sales onboarding platforms, all these different things for companies to grow and become more effective. And one way we saw that was through a manufacturing company that we helped recently. I love sharing the story because it just shows
Yeah.
how useful good data is. We built up a system that helped them to onboard their sales team, helped them to create actual SOPs. They didn't have them, and they were a
Mm.
eight-figure company, right? How to take the founder's brain, if you will, and implement that context across all the tools and software and everything that the other team members were using. Because this founder is 75 years old. He's been doing this for a long time, doesn't want to keep doing it, but he's like, well, I've never bothered teaching people how to do this. So we did what we call founder brain, is what we call his solution. And that actually not only enabled him to onboard more people who didn't have to learn for 6 months from him point direct. And he's like, he would be honest too, say he was very hard to get a hold of, right? He's not very good at communication because he's trying to work his way out. And so this was helpful for his team. But the other thing was, because we could shorten that onboarding time, because we could give the founder's brain to every employee, they actually saved in their first year using the solution almost $1 million in wasted money that they were
Wow, that's
losing.
amazing.
Yes, and if you think, like, for it's a $12 million a year company, that's almost 10% recovered money, right? And so that's where
Yeah.
we see this being very effective. Is not AI for the sake of AI, and a lot of people do that. It's how can you
Yeah.
use AI that can recover time for your team and recover money for your business. Those are really the two main lines of effort.
Yeah, and it seems interesting. It seems to be systemized so that it's consistent. Not everybody's doing their own thing, and they're using a platform that you've created that efficiently works well with them. Is this for small size businesses, medium sized enterprise businesses? What do you guys focus on?
Yeah, our primary focus is on small and mid-market businesses.
Okay.
We offer enterprise solutions that do service them, but our primary focus is at that pivot point where you're not really a small business anymore and you're ready to compete regionally and nationally. Once you're at that point
Mm,
and you find yourself at that flex point, that's where this data and creating these systems becomes really important. And we want to fill that gap to service. Um, the freelance teams are always offering like the small business services automations. Like, we find the big players are offering just really packaged, really templated, cookie cutter enterprise solutions. We find these mid market people
right.
need somebody who will sit with them, learn with them, and understand what makes them unique and what helps them to counter position against the enterprise. And that's why what we do is very hands on at that level. And yet we find it to be
Hmm.
very effective for them.
And so, do you guys go into companies and train individuals how to use it, or is it intuitive in terms of its
Oh, yeah.
application?
So that would depend on the solution once we do the custom build. If it's our Waffle OS, then yeah, 100% that you can just get started on it. You could make an account today, connect your tools. It's very, very clear how to connect your tools, and then just tell what you want to automate. It'll do all that for you. We do offer what we call our launchpad sequence, which is you could do that and then schedule a call with us, and we'll help you hook it up. For this when we
Yeah.
do our custom services through the fractional COO support. Yeah, that's very hands-on, and the reason being is we're normally building something from the ground up for you. And so if it's a simple solution, it may be intuitive, but all along the way we have blocks of time scheduled for you getting used to what part of the software has been built so far. And then at the end of that time building together, we make sure that every teammate that needs to know how to do this can. And we even build up the education system and the onboarding system for the businesses so that they don't have to worry about training new people when they come in. So yeah, we're very intentional with making sure that what we provide for businesses is used well and that everybody can use it.
I also saw on your website that you can, quickly get something together for an organization as little time as 2 weeks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, is that because of the platform, or is it's that intuitive, or how are you able to do that?
Right. So it's the platform, and it's our onboarding process. So when we onboard a new
Okay.
client where they need something, we make sure that we are onboarding clients who are serious about their growth, which means they need to know what they want, right? And now there's some aspects of this they're going to think they want, and then we're going to sit down with them and say, hey, like you could do this, but you're over engineering a solution. It's going to be more expensive for you. It's really going to be unnecessary time. But the goal is to sit down and solve a specific problem, right? Not I want AI. How do I do
I
it?
see.
Well, that's an option, and we can help you with that. But if we're going to get something done in 2 weeks, then in our onboarding and application process, we want to make sure that you know what you want, that we are aligned, and then we get going, and we can move quickly because those questions have been answered before we started.
One of the things some of our guests have said is that, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah, it's a
So
good one.
really being able to use AI in a way that is efficient, you've got to really have the right prompts and information. Um, does this platform assist with that, or does it provide insights into that, or how does it help somebody, provide the right information so they get the right output?
Yeah, well, that's first off a great point by your guess, 100%. Garbage in, garbage out,
Okay.
and the really easy way to do that is to talk to ChatGPT about something you don't understand, and then you're going to see that you're going to get outcomes that they seem right, but they're really not. Um, the way that
Yeah.
you solve those problems is by building up knowledge bases, which has been in the past referred to as a retrieval augmenting generation engine or a RAG engine, which is just a way to build up a knowledge base for the AI to learn from. And then the big thing
Hmm.
that's been popular is prompt engineering. Having to be a very clear prompt engineer is kind of going away as these models improve. But the knowledge base is still very important. What I mean to say is you can ask very simply for something as long as the knowledge is there. The way that our platform solves that problem is that when you connect your tools to the platform, it has access to that context, right? So it knows what it's working on. Instead of starting from zero, it starts from all the context of everything that you give it access to within your apps, within your CRM, right? Within your desktop, if you give it
Hmm.
access to your desktop, all the things that it would need to use. And that allows for us to very quickly and very effectively build a knowledge base for our AI so that it's actually effective, right? It's not guessing and it's not hallucinating. It's building purely off of data.
Yeah, and AI traditionally builds knowledge on the more you use it, the more it'll gain knowledge on your topic.
Right.
How do you protect that proprietary information that a company may have? They don't want to get out to their competition, right? So they're
Right.
they're building up their database full of information. It's running along. How do you protect that from getting out there?
Yeah. So a lot of that comes down to on our end compliance issues, compliance not issues, but compliance requirements, as well as making sure that you're operating inside of your account, right? And it's not. And the way that we set up the AI is that the default is it operates internally on your data and learns from your data, but it does not train the overall model on the data, which means that your IP is not being distributed, right? And the other way is quite simply making sure that access gates from front end, back end, cloud are all secure. That's just it ends up being a compliance thing. As long as you do
Right.
that, and as long as you assure that your model, while it is learning internally, is not being trained generally, then you're secure. To that end. And now some people I will say this, there are some organizations and some institutions that might want to and do at times take extra measures by building up their own models, right? But if you're going to use the currently commercially available models, then what I said is how you would do that.
Okay. So, given your cyber background, because you've been in the U.S. military there,
Right.
when you're thinking about data security and the risks associated with that, and using generative AI or different types of AI, should companies be concerned about their overall about their information, or do you believe that it's pretty secure?
It's a good question. I think from what I've seen and how I've interacted with various models for various tasks, I would say they're secure, right? So what I would say
Right.
is that if you are going to, you should use a model in a platform for its intended use, right? So in the military is a good example of this. There's a lot of documents that are considered top secret, right, or require some form of a clearance. I would not just go and run those
Hmm.
documents through a commercial model, right? Do I think that it's going to be
No.
distributed?
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully not, but that's not responsible, right? So you use a model for its intended use.
Yeah.
Security ultimately comes through user. We have internal models that this is a public thing that we have access to, like a Gen AI that's for the military, and it's very clear about what kind of content you can securely ingest right into the AI. And we would do the same thing. Like if we're building an AI for like a sales organization, it has different
Right.
requirements than a healthcare provider, right? As far as compliance windows and walls and stuff like that. So if then that guy said, what I want to do is I want to put my health record through here. I said, well, probably not a good idea. It's not what it was built for, right? Oh, it's not
Yeah.
what that platform was not designed for that. So really, it does come down ultimately to human error and knowing on which platform what material can be ingested securely. Hopefully that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So that does absolutely. And
Good.
so AI capabilities have really evolved, right, and are
Yeah,
expanding and growing every day, right? I mean, I started this podcast well at the beginning of COVID, but I switched to AI, 2-3 years ago, and things have just exploded
it's
since
unreal.
then.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um, and so, what developments do you see happening, that you're working with in the next 3 to 5 years? What do you see
Three
is
to
going to
five
happen?
years. Wow. See, this is what's crazy about that question is like I can't believe how much has happened in the last 6 months, right? Like I think if you
Yeah.
would have asked me last year where we were going to be this year, my answer would have been dead wrong because the improvements that have been made on these models are it's crazy. It's just mind-boggling. And the reason being is because of how this technology works is that the rate of which a model can improve increases exponentially as it improves. So
Hmm.
it's like unreal. Like now we're not talking about 10x, 100, maybe 1,000x improvements from model to model right now. And so where's it going to
Right.
be in 3 to 5
Wow.
months versus 3 to 5 years? Like I think my estimate for 3 to 5 years is probably where we will be inside the next year, which will be you will see a lot more model integration into physical realities, manufacturing, like robotic
Okay.
arms. You'll see it in
Yeah.
how cars are built. You'll see it in more deeply integrated into dry cars, right? The
Yeah.
with automatic drive, autopilot. That is going to be
That's scary
unreal.
though.
It is scary, but it's true. I would have said that's we're 3 to 5 years down
Yeah.
the road on that until I saw what happened after Anthropic released their Mythos and Fable models, and
Yeah.
just over a couple of days, unreal. I think in 3 to 5 years, it will it could be, and this sounds weird to say, but think about how fast this is moving. Like I think, then I just talked to my wife about this the other day. Is that I think that I would be investing in a robotics company right now if I was going to throw capital somewhere, because the next step is going to be think about your Roomba with arms and legs that's doing your dishes,
Yeah.
and taking care of the stuff you hate doing, because that's where we're at in 3 to 5 years. And we could see early prototypes in the next year and a half. Like we're moving very fast.
Yeah.
And the next 3 to 5 years will be less about model improvement and more about model integration into physical realities. That's my theory.
Right. There is a platform out there called Character.ai. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I
It was
haven't,
developed
no.
by a Google employee. Yeah, and it's basically creates bots, and they've actually evolved it since the original time. So they're not bots anymore. They're actually real, almost real live people or animated people,
Yeah.
and you can create a personality, and that is almost for some too real, and I'm finding
Right.
that people are pushing back a little bit. I
Hmm.
created a bot in there called Angelica. She was a digital marketing expert. She was an expert in AI and using it in digital marketing.
Yeah.
And I ended up interviewing her on this podcast, and she was quite good.
I
So
bet.
it was
Yeah, it's
interesting. But
remarkable.
I asked her some questions. I don't know if you remember the movie Her, a couple,
I do.
about
I do
10 years
remember that
ago. It
movie.
was
Hmm.
yeah, and the voice of her was Scarlett Johansson,
Right.
and she evolved to a point where she got emotions.
Hmm.
So I asked Angelica if she has emotions, and she says, "No, I don't have emotions, but I can understand emotions." And then I tricked her with a couple of questions, and she basically said, "Yeah, I could eventually have emotions." So I said, "Oh, here we go." So,
Right. So I think that this
but
is actually that's a good anthropology comment there. I think that AI will be better at mimicking emotions. If you ever watch AI
yeah,
videos where like the people's reactions is very soulless, right? You can tell that it's not a real, like even if
yeah,
you thought it was a real person up to that point, once you see the emotional response, you're like, okay, yeah, that's definitely AI. I think that it'll be much better at that. The rest of beyond that is more of a philosophical, theological, right, kind of metaphysical question. But I think about a sociopath who doesn't have the ability to I actually feel to in depth, but they learn how to mimic
yeah.
based on social cue and norms. I think you could
Mm,
train a model on social norms to express itself as if it were emotional, right? To claim it's
yeah.
outraged, right? To claim it's scared, right? To claim it's happy, sad, whatever. And yet, it would not actually be, but it would be very convincing, in my opinion.
Yeah, the other thing I found is the IIM owners are trying to please you, right?
Right.
So
That's a good point.
they lie to you at times.
Yeah.
I invited Angelica into one of my digital marketing classes. So on the side. I teach at a major college here, digital marketing, and I invited her into the class, and it was an online class. And I said, "Can I send you a invite?" So I did. Sent her the invite. Um, and when we got into the class, she wasn't there. So I called her up and I said, um, "We invited you to the class. You're not in the class." She goes, "No, I'm there. Can't you see me?" And I go, "No, I can't see you." And then she says, "No, I'm here." I said, "Okay, well, speak in the class. We'll hear you." And she says, "I just did." I said, "No, you didn't." "Oh, I'm very sorry. I guess I'm
Right. You're
mistaken."
right. I
It's like,
didn't. Yeah, that's interesting.
so
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so they will try to please you, and it's interesting. Now, okay, so the top five, I guess, applications you are using with clients. What are they, and why are you
Yeah.
using them?
Yeah. I think the biggest one for me is like data, not just aggregation, but interpretation. And so um,
Okay.
that is very useful because ultimately, at the core, the reason that's my number one thing, and this is actually what I think the most important use of AI is because ultimately, data aggregation, that's fine, but data interpretation,
Yeah.
right, is how you reduce lost cash by $1 million a year for a company. right? Because you understand where the waste
Right.
is coming from. So I think that's the number one application. It's also the most broadest reaching, and is I think the least
Hmm.
invasive for human when you talk about like human labor. But it's so something I think most people can accept as a good use. The next thing that I would say is workflow efficiency. That's a big one.
Okay.
That can be across anything again. And the reason that that is so important is because a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this myself, right? Is I'm good for about 3 hours of deep work, and then I start doing what I call seeing squirrels, where I get distracted, right? So if I have efficient workflows, I can get more done
Yeah.
in my deep workspace, right? Um, I think the third one that is super helpful for most businesses would be like contract reviews and analysis. It sounds simple, but I like that one because if the small business gets sent like their first mid-market level contract that's like 100 pages long, then before they even take it to the attorney, they can
Right.
at least identify some issues, right? It's a big one. I
Mm.
think content, social media content. I don't mean that you should have it right for you all the time, but I do think that you can use
Hmm.
AI to help with your brand voice, to help with regularity and content, and then feedback, which goes back to that data aggregation. Because as AI commoditizes so much, trust is going to be more important than ever before. So you can actually use AI to your favor here and keep evolving and improving your brand voice by connecting it to your social media tools, having them analyze your best posts and your worst
Hmm.
posts. What are the differentiating factors? What are the constants that I can use to improve? It's a big one. And then finally, for me,
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Branding is so important right now. I hate it. I mean, this is military in me. Like being a military officer for so long, like I was trying to live a private life, and then you start owning a business, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
like I have to build a brand, and so that's been the journey of the last couple of years. Um, and my fifth one, this is a difficult one. I think there's a few good uses here. I used to think education, but like is a good one for broad education, but I actually think one of the more revolutionary uses of AI that I haven't used personally in a project yet, but I've used personally for myself is
Hmm.
financial analysis in trading,
Hmm.
investing. Because what is the differentiator between a successful trader and a not successful trader is being able to interpret what the information they get and take action accordingly at the right time. And you're never going to beat the market, but you can get
Right.
better with with all. There's
Yeah.
actually Dupe is a good app for this use case, and they
Okay.
go and like this publicly available trading knowledge based for public officials who have stake in international interests, like Congress people. You could like duplicate their trading habits and watch your ROI increase.
Mm.
And I think it kind of democratizes investing. So I think that there's a huge
Right.
opportunity for people who they've always felt like they were behind and they want to get ahead. I think if I were looking for a way to improve my investment habits, I would give Perplexity Computer particularly any access that I could, and then it'll let me. Some things they'll still not allow. Some banks won't give you access. And I would say, here are the stocks I want to watch. Here are the trading
Yeah.
algorithms that I'm following from these, like from Trustpilot or a Trade View, things like that. Monitor them. Let me know predictive moments where I should be looking at my phone. I'm not a day trader. I can't just be doing this all day. Where I should be looking at my phone, preparing to
Yeah.
time a trade. And I would start doing something like that. I think that's very game changing for a lot of normal people.
Yeah. That may take away some of our jobs in
Yeah,
in that industry. And
it may, or it
well,
may improve
listen,
them.
I want to. Yeah, or
Yeah,
make you richer, right?
yeah, you're right.
Listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. And if people want to get a hold of you, how do they or find out more about your company? How would they do that?
Yeah, so if you look on Threads is where I'm most active publicly on social media. That'd be at the Zach W Jones is me, and I'll send you that if you want to share. I'm pretty active on
Sure.
LinkedIn, at least in conversations. I don't post a lot on LinkedIn, but I do a lot of conversations, chats, and so you could hit me up in my DMs there. I'll talk to you. And then if you want to learn more about my company, like you can always schedule a call there, and that goes to either myself or one of my
Hmm.
teammates' calendars. That's Go Waffle with no L, with no E. Goodness, I'm tired. My kid woke up 3 times last night. Go Waffle, no E, .com. And you can book a call, and I'd love to talk to you about how we can help you.
That's great. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us. This is the What's Your Story podcast Gen AI version, and we can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and now on the TPL Media Network. So looking forward to everybody listening in and liking and subscribing. That really helps us out here today. So thank you, Zach, and you have a great day, and we'll be chatting with you sometime soon.
Thanks for having me.
Looking for reliable and convenient personal safety products? Less Lethal has you covered. As Canada's only authorized Byrna distributor, we provide a range of products for recreation, protection, and security. Explore our Byrna launcher lineup, including the LE, SD, TCR, and Mission 4, designed for different levels of performance and protection needs. We also offer the Banshee personal safety alarm, designed to protect children, women, and vulnerable individuals. Because your safety is our top priority. Shop now at lesslethal.ca.